Well, for more insights on June 16th and the significance thereof, we now speak to Professor Saths Cooper, the president of the Pan-African Psychology Union. Professor, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Prime News on 3.
Thank you for having me.
Well, first of all, asking young people born in the last few years who Hector Peterson was or what Youth Day means to them would be rather a tall order. But do you get a sense that there's some sort of understanding and appreciation and acknowledgement of the sacrifices of the 1976 youth that actually fought for our freedom during the apartheid era and the bettering of today's education, youth, for the youth in particular?
Well, I think there is general acknowledgement, recognition in terms of what is now taught in our schools. It came quite late, but it is there. So nobody who has gone through our school system in the last 3 decades ought not to be aware of the significance, the turning point, if you like, of the apartheid regime at the height of its oppression and escalation into open warfare in different parts of the country, and then its subsequent demise and the introduction of democracy. I am very clear that were it not for the sacrifices of the young people who did what they did in Soweto and other places throughout the country, there would not have been a change towards democracy. 1976, June 16th was a high point in the liberation struggle. And from there, things began to change. You saw changes happen. On the one hand, the apartheid system increased its military might, was vicious in how it handled opponents. But on the other, the dawn of democracy did beckon. That singular event is why we're here today.
You're quite right there, Professor, when you said that, June 16 was the pinnacle for South African struggle for freedom. But then we also need to acknowledge the fact that the youth of today may not necessarily strike a resonance with the challenges and, the issues faced by the youth of 1976. Granted, they fought for the a better quality for education in 1976, and even today's youth are still fighting for a better quality of education with the issues like fees must fall, for instance. But one may argue that there's a much bigger challenge facing the youth of today. What is it?
I think that in education, clearly, we have dumbed down our education from the quest for excellence that the Hector Petersons gave their lives for, that we were led by the Khotso Siahlolos, the Tsietsi Mashaninis, the Seth Mazibukos, the Murphy Morobes, the Dan Mutsitsis, and others, has dropped. We are now in a situation where we have one of the worst education systems available. There's all sorts of talk, and you'll hear all sorts of slogans, and you'll have a whole lot of money pumped into deep holes. But the fact of the matter is that most parents would want to have their children educated outside of the public sector, and that's during democracy. And during democracy, we've seen the rise of private schools. This government has enabled those institutions to flourish out there. So education is appalling. The quest for better education, better lives through better health is one that is lacking. And it's sad to say, in the 28th year of our democracy, these two essential elements of education and health are appalling. Our democracy has failed us in terms of meeting those needs, and we've seen that during COVID as well. So our young people are confronted with a hopelessness because of the appalling socioeconomic conditions, and I don't want to repeat, the worst kinds of statistics that we are notorious for, and during democracy, and yet we get the plethora of slogans uttered by people on high, and the kind of names we give to this day become yet other slogans that are not met. So our youth, and they're the majority in this country. I think our median age is somewhere around 27, 28. And a hump of people are young people. And what they confront is a scenario of chaos, a scenario where things don't work, a scenario where politicians have taken unto themselves certain roles, and we have bureaucrats who are paid to do certain things who are not doing them. Yet, we have qualified, we have able people, young people in particular, produced through our institutions in this country and elsewhere, who can take up the slack that is left by this.
Well, Professor, unfortunately, the line is not the best, so please, I'd require you to be as brief as you possibly can because of the poor quality of the line. And we are out of time, unfortunately. But just a brief question. You mentioned slogan after slogan, and one may argue that, some of the things that the government is giving the youth of today is slogans, 1976, Nelson Mandela, and some of the slogans surrounding some of the struggle heroes who are not even here today. So do you get a sense that the government of South Africa is future-centric in terms of gearing up the youth for the future and in terms of introducing entrepreneurial subjects at the school syllabus, at the elementary and as well as the high school, so that the students are better equipped to have an entrepreneurial spirit? No, we're not doing that. Indeed, if we look at the cabinet, we have only one person who is younger than 40. What does it say? Where's the role models that we need to show young people that they are treasured? We are not treasuring our children. We are not treasuring our youth. Indeed, we have made them statistics, and we should stop doing that. All right, Professor, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time.